Labor Day weekend is here. The resort towns will be filled with tourists. Thousands will flock to the Ocean City Boardwalk. It's an end of summer ritual that has been going on for as long as, well, any of us can remember.
There is, however, one Labor Day weekend that everybody would like to forget. Labor Day of 1960, the year of the Labor Day riot in Ocean City. Here to tell us this afternoon more about it, Secrets of the Eastern Shore author Jim Duffy. Mr. Duffy, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
I got one word I got to ask you about, though. Seriously, a riot?
2,500 people overturning cars, stealing porch furniture, breaking windows.
Oh my goodness.
They turned the fire hose on this crowd that gathered outside of the police station. Oh, it's a riot.
So, what started it?
It started with something really small. Well, there's kind of a big picture, which is that Ocean City was cracking down on teen delinquency that summer. It was a zero tolerance policy, arrest after arrest after arrest. And on the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, up at an arcade about 10 blocks up the boardwalk, a 20-ish-year-old young man was messing with the volume at an arcade jukebox and also riding on a hobby horse. And the owner of the arcade ended up calling the cops when the guy wouldn't leave. And the cops got there, and it turned ugly really fast. And one of the cops, an Officer Larimore was his name, pulled out his nightstick and hit this kid over the head. And this was kind of the last straw after this summer of zero tolerance, and hundreds of kids were gathered on the boardwalk. Right. And they all saw this, and they tried to actually get in there and kind of beat up the cops, but the cops successfully got the young man into their car and drove away. And the kids who were there decided that they were going to go get that guy out of jail, and they started marching down towards the police station 10 blocks away. And as they marched, all kinds of other kids joined in the parade, and that's when they started turning over cars. By the time they got to the police station at midnight, there were 2,500 young people demanding the release of this young man.
So, do we know anything about the young man?
Yeah. His name was Laren Baker, and he was a Marine from Camp Lejeune, on leave from Camp Lejeune, in training, and he was from Baltimore. And that sort of added fuel to the fire, the fact that he was a Marine and had been mistreated like that. At first, the mayor of Ocean City told all the cops to stand down. He thought if there were no cops, everything would calm down. Right. But he was wrong. It didn't calm down. There was a visiting state police bigwig was vacationing in Ocean City that weekend, and he called in reinforcements, and there were like 30 state police cars from all over Delmarva streaming into Ocean City. And the mayor eventually called out the fire department, and they ended up turning the fire hoses on all these kids, 2,500 kids, who were by that point armed with like rocks and bottles, and they were throwing them at the cops and everything like that. It was really over the top.
So how did this all end up? What was the aftermath?
They were out there for 4 hours outside of the police station demanding the release of this guy. And then it finally calmed down and the crowd dispersed. 30-some people were arrested for disorderly conduct. The young Marine ended up in a hospital in Salisbury with a concussion. He also ended up getting charged with disorderly conduct. Right. And there's one kind of humorous afternote. The next day, there was another incident on the boardwalk about whether you're allowed to wear whether you have to wear a T-shirt, or a young man, whether you can wear a T-shirt or not. And the cops were trying to make this young man put on a T-shirt. And another crowd of hundreds of kids gathered around these cops. But instead of doing anything wrong, they broke into song. First, they sang, Hail, did? Hail. No, the kids.
The kids did.
The kids did. First they sang, Hail, Hail, the gang's all here. And then they sang the Beer Barrel Polka. And that was the end of the raucous weekend in Ocean City in 1960. And I should say nobody was hurt during this whole thing except for the guy with the concussion, and he seems to have recovered.
And that all happened Labor Day weekend 1960. Wow, Jim Duffy, thank you so much for another interesting story.
Man, oh man, oh man.